Hello everyone, you're watching Everything Weapons. Welcome back to the channel and another video. Today we got some news for you. Germany to buy ground-launched Tomahawk missiles. The planned purchase marks a major shift in NATO's conventional strike posture as allies respond to the threat from Russia. This is from the Warzone website, so all credit to them. That's where I'm reading from. Berlin says it has agreed to a deal with the United States to buy U.S.-made Tomahawk cruise missiles, providing a significant boost to Germany's long-range strike capabilities. The move comes from after the U.S. appeared to reevaluate its plan to deploy a long-range fires battalion in Germany, and as NATO allies in Europe race to enhance their conventional standoff missile deterrent against Russia. An agreement on the sale of Tomahawk missiles to the Germans was reached with U.S. officials on the sidelines of the NATO summit in Ankara this week, and German Chancellor Merz announced after his return from Turkey, where the NATO summit, this will close an important strategic gap in our defense, and at the same time, we will work to develop our own European systems and station them in Europe, Merz told the Bundestag lower house of parliament in Berlin today. Citing German government sources, Reuters reports that a letter of intent for the procurement was signed Tuesday. Germany had previously sought to buy Tomahawks, but these efforts had been rebuffed by Washington. Specifically, Berlin wanted to acquire the ground-launched version of the system with up to 400 of the latest Tomahawk Block VP missiles, valued at more than $1 billion US, according to the reports. All Block V Tomahawks are provided with a 2-day data link, allowing them to receive course correction and other targeting updates, as well as be entirely retasked during flight. The Block VB subvariant is fitted with a joint multi-effects warhead that makes it suitable for striking a wider variety of land targets. The Tomahawk Block V has a range exceeding 1,000 miles, depending on the exact configuration. Currently, the longest range indirect fires capability fielded by the German army is the M270 multiple launch rocket system, also known as the MLRS, known in German service as the I don't even want to pronounce that. It's too hard. Mars 2 is what the Germans classify it as. The longest range artillery rockets currently available for the system can hit targets out to around 43 miles. Germany has not received the far larger Army tactical missile system, short-range ballistic missiles that can engage threats out to 186 miles, depending on the variant. As well as the Tomahawk missiles, Germany will need to buy the Typhoon launchers to even deploy the Tomahawks. Reports in the German media suggest that a request for the launchers was already made last year in July 2025. Germany had also been looking at the possibility of acquiring the naval version of the Tomahawk to arm its planned Type 127 frigates, although these have since been canceled. Regardless, acquisition of the Tomahawk would be a big deal for Germany, and a huge benefit, right? Outside of the US, only Australia, Japan, and the Dutch, the Netherlands, and the United Kingdom currently use the Tomahawk. So not many countries, right? All of these export operators use the naval version of the Tomahawk missile, making the German deployment all the more significant because the Germans want the ground-launched Tomahawk version, right? Washington's approval to sell the Tomahawk and or Typhoon combination to Berlin would seem to confirm that the United States won't, after all, be sending a U.S. Army long-range fires battalion to Germany. In May, amid something of a breakdown in relations between Berlin and Washington, triggered by German criticism of the U.S. war in Iran, the U.S. announced it would reduce its military presence in Germany by 5,000 soldiers at the the same time, it was reported that the Pentagon had also decided to abandon plans to deploy the Army's second multi-domain task force to Germany. German officials moved to try to smooth things over, stating that there had been no definite cancellation of the missile deployment by the United States, first announced under the Biden administration. This plan was to start deployments to Germany in 2026 this year, followed by longer-term stationing of various types of long-range missiles in the same country, as well as the Tomahawk and Typhoon launchers can fire the SM-6 multi-purpose missile. In the future, they are also intended to be armed with developmental hypersonic weapons, like the Dark Eagle and potentially others like the operational Fires hypersonic missile and the Precision Strike Missile, or PRSM, short-range ballistic missile. With that in mind, Germany's Typhoon launchers could potentially receive some of these missiles in the future too. For Germany, however, the Tomahawk procurement is seen as a temporary solution until domestically or European-developed long-range weapons become available for the Germans. For the longer term, Germany is part of the European long-range strike approach, and the initiative, led by France and also involving Italy, Poland, Sweden, and the UK, aims to develop a new long-range strike capability, potentially in the form of a cruise missile, a ballistic missile, or a combination of both. Earlier announcements indicated that the ELSA, European long-range strike approach, is intended to deliver a missile with a range of 1,000 to 2,000 kilometers, which is 621 to 1,243 miles, with entry into service planned for the 2030s. Separately, Germany and the UK have also unveiled plans to jointly develop a deep precision strike weapon with a range exceeding 2,000 kilometers. However, the project remains at an early stage with no industrial framework yet agreed. Together, these initiatives underscore the growing determination among European NATO members to develop long-range strike capabilities in response to the increasing Russian threat along the alliance's eastern flank. Germany's planned procurement of ground-launched Tomahawk cruise missiles reflects a dramatically altered European security environment following the collapse of the Intermediate-Range Nuclear Forces INF Treaty, signed in 1987 at the height of the Cold War. The accord prohibited the United States and the Soviet Union, later Russia, from deploying ground-based ballistic and cruise missiles, whether nuclear or conventionally armed, with ranges between 500 to 5.5 kilometers, which is 310 and 3.4 miles. Ironically, one of the weapons outlawed by the INF Treaty, the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty, was an earlier ground-launched version of the Tomahawk cruise missile, the U.S. Air Force BGM-109G Gryphon, which was also deployed in Germany, not without controversy. So the treaty effectively unraveled after the United States withdrew in 2019 during President Trump's first term, citing Russia's deployment of the prohibited banned 9M729, also known as the SSC-8 Screwdriver ground-launched cruise missile, an allegation Moscow has consistently denied. Russia formally suspended its own participation in the agreement in 2023, removing the last legal barriers to the deployment of intermediate-range land-based missiles in Europe. Since then, both Russia and NATO have moved to rebuild capabilities that had been absent from the continent for more than 3 decades. Even before its formal withdrawal, Moscow had signaled its intention to field new INF-range missiles in response to comparable U.S. deployments, while repeatedly using nuclear signaling, including high-profile exercises and explicit threats, in an effort to deter greater Western support for Ukraine. Russia has also used the war in Ukraine to demonstrate and refine its expanding missile arsenal. In November 2024, it employed the new Oreshchnik intermediate range ballistic missile in combat for the first time, although the version used against Ukraine carried conventional warheads, perhaps even inert ones, a nuclear armed Orioshnik would be capable of striking most major Western European capitals and critical NATO military infrastructure. So, at the same time, there are indications that Russia has employed the 9M729 operationally in Ukraine while continuing work on additional intermediate range strike systems, including a reported ground-launched hypersonic missile that could be based on the Zircon naval missile, or an enhanced Iskander M ballistic missile. Russia has also reinforced its forward posture by deploying nuclear-capable Iskander missiles and MiG-31 Foxhound aircraft armed with the Kinzhal air-launched ballistic missiles to Kaliningrad in the Baltic, while transferring tactical nuclear weapons, or at least their delivery infrastructure, to neighboring Belarus. So Germany's Tomahawk procurement reflects a fundamental shift in NATO's approach to deterrence in Europe, where long-range conventional strike capabilities are once again viewed as essential rather than escalatory. With Russia fielding new intermediate-range missiles, NATO's relations with the United States under strain, and European allies launching their own development programs in this area, a new missile race is happening, and the changing security environment is underway under the continent. Thank you guys very much for watching. Drop a like, subscribe, especially if you are new. Why not? Takes 2 seconds. Ring the bell. That way you don't miss any video I post in the future. And once again, you've been watching Everything Weapons. Check out my older content as well on the channel, guys. Lots of videos to binge watch. Until next time, I will see you in my next video.